Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. This is a public meeting for the proposed draft removal action work plan, also known as a RAW, for the McKinley Elementary School project at 2401 Santa Monica Boulevard in Santa Monica. My name is Teresa Hernandez. I'm a public participation specialist with the Department of Toxic Substances Control, and I'll be your meeting facilitator this evening. If you need technical assistance, please use the raise hand function at the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. This meeting is being recorded. By participating in this meeting, you are agreeing to be recorded. We ask that you select your preferred language, English or Spanish, so that you will be able to fully participate in the meeting. To do so, please click on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen. You will see three options: off, English, and Spanish. Please select English or Spanish. Again, everyone, including those participating in English, will need to select a language to fully participate in the meeting. Please choose English or Spanish now. Bienvenidos y gracias por acompañarnos esta tarde. Si desea participar en esta reunión en español, seleccione el idioma en la parte inferior de la ventana de Zoom y luego seleccione español. Si necesita asistencia técnica, por favor, levante la mano o escriba en el chat. Please refer to the diagrams on the screen if you're having trouble selecting a language. Also, thank you, Haj and Suzanne, who are interpreting on our Spanish line. Presentation materials in English and Spanish are available in the project's EnviroStore webpage at envirostore.dtsc.ca.gov/public. That's envirostore.dtsc.gov/PUBLIC and search for McKinley Elementary School. McKinleyElementaryschool in the search toolbar. Closed captions are on for this meeting. You can move the box or turn them off by clicking the CC icon. To ensure all meeting participants can fully participate, we developed the following agreements. This is a shared space, so please be cautious of this and courteous to your fellow meeting attendees. Be mindful of the space you are taking up and give others the opportunity to express themselves as well. You may be muted at any time during this meeting. We remind you again to please make your language selection English or Spanish so that you will be able to fully participate in the meeting. Again, everyone, including those participating in English, will need to make a selection. To ensure all meeting participants receive the same information, and especially those joining receiving interpretation, please speak clearly and at an even pace. The Q&A feature is enabled, and you can use it to type questions throughout the presentation. So please wait for the public comment period to provide public comments for the record. The Department of Toxic Substances Control, known as DTSC, is hosting this meeting. Tonight, we will be presenting and accepting public comments related to the proposed draft removal action work plan for the McKinley Elementary School project at 2401 Santa Monica Boulevard in Santa Monica. Again, my name is Teresa Hernandez. I am the DTSC Public Participation Specialist assigned to this project. I would also like to introduce to you all the panelists with the Department of Toxic Substances Control who are joining this evening. Shahir Haddad, Branch Chief; Lina Hijazi, Project Manager; Joe Huang, Senior Engineering Geologist; Brian Estrella, Staff Toxicologist; Marissa Woosley, Engineer; Ahmed Pathak, Supervising Engineer; and Manuel Lopez, Unit Supervisor for Public Participation. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us this evening amongst your many competing priorities. The meeting is scheduled from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to provide information about the proposed draft removal action work plan, or RAW, which is a plan to clean up contamination, respond to your questions, and accept public comments. Shahir Haddad, the branch chief, will go over DTSC's roles on this project. Nina Hijazi, the project manager, will give the presentation followed by a question and answer period that I will help facilitate. The Q&A is specifically to answer clarifying questions you may have of the presentation. After the Q&A period, we will begin the public comment session for the record. All public comments will be responded to and included in the response to comments document, which will be uploaded to EnviroStore and sent to those providing their contact information. If you would like a copy of this document sent to you, please send your contact information to me via email at teresa.hernandez@dtsc.ca.gov. That's teresa.hernandez@dtsc.ca.gov. Note if you would like to receive it by email. Please note that you would need to email me in order for me to have your information to email you this document. The comment period began on May 17th and will close on June 18th. If you would like to submit further comments after tonight's meeting, please email Lina Hijazi at lina.hijazi@dtsc.ca.gov. That's LINAHIJAZI@dtsc.ca.gov. For more information regarding this project, please visit the McKinley Elementary School DTSC EnviroStore webpage. To review project documents in person, please visit the Santa Monica Public Library located at 601 Santa Monica Boulevard in Santa Monica, or make an appointment to review them at the DTSC Cypress Regional Office at 5796 Corporate Avenue in Cypress. We are hosting this meeting from different locations and request that you bear with us if there is a time lag or other technical issues. We sincerely appreciate your patience, understanding, and cooperation in making this a successful meeting. For folks who may have recently joined, I would like to give another reminder: select your language preference. All participants, including those participating in English, need to make a language selection, English or Spanish, to fully participate in the meeting. If you need a hand with this, please let us know. Is anyone having trouble? For folks who may have recently, With that, I will now invite our first presenter for tonight's meeting, Shahir Haddad, the branch chief, to begin our presentation. Shahir?
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you all for taking the time to attend our meeting. I'm Shahir Haddad, branch chief in the cleanup program in the department Cypress office. Lina Hijazi is going to provide details about the results of the environmental investigation and the next steps. But before Lina goes over that, I'd like to briefly talk about who we are and what we do in the department. The Department of Toxic Substances Control is one of the agencies and departments under the umbrella of California Environmental Protection Agency. There are other agencies and boards under California EPA, such as the Air Board and the Water Board, and we work closely with sister agencies on many of our projects. Our department is responsible for investigation and cleanup of properties contaminated with hazardous substances. The branch that we are with here manages all school projects in Southern California. Every school district, when they need to expand an existing school or build a new school, they require to go through an environmental review with our office. Can you please go to the next? When a school district need to build a new school or expand an existing school and they go to the Department of Education, the education code requires the district to go through environmental review with our office. Some school districts, although not required, they still choose to work with us on a voluntary basis, as the case here of the Santa Monica School District and McKinley Elementary. It's not a requirement, but they selected to work with us on a voluntary basis. The purpose of the environmental review is to make sure that the school is safe for occupants and to look into whether there are any contaminants or hazardous constituents in soil or groundwater that may pose risk to students or staff on the school. That's the purpose of the environmental review. Now, with schools, unlike other type of projects with the schools, we evaluate naturally occurring hazardous material, such as petroleum, such as asbestos and rocks, and naturally occurring arsenic. For typical projects, we do not address naturally occurring hazardous material, but for schools, we do address naturally occurring hazardous material. As the case here in McKinley Elementary, we have a naturally occurring arsenic in the soil on the school. Can you please go to the next? Now, what is the environmental review about? What does the environmental review entails? We start with evaluation or assessment. We look at the history of a property, the owners, the operators, what was the property used for. We look at, was hazardous material used, where on the property, stored, disposed, managed. We look at above the ground features, underground features. We look at the property itself, and we look at the surrounding adjacent properties or nearby properties. And based on that historical review of or information, we draft the scope of work for the environmental investigation. The purpose of an environmental investigation, first, to figure out whether or not there are releases of hazardous substances into the soil or into groundwater. And if there is, we need to determine or define the boundaries of impacted soil and impacted groundwater. Once we have to do that, we need to know what type of hazardous constituents are present in soil and groundwater, and at what depth, what type of material, where, and at what depth. After that phase of a project is complete, and we have good understanding of the site conditions, we move to the next step. We draft a cleanup strategy or a cleanup plan to address the on-site impacts to soil and on-site impacts to groundwater, if any impacts. We look at different technologies, different cleanup options. We evaluate these options. We go through comparative analysis of the cleanup options and alternatives. And based on the comparative analysis, we come up with the preferred option or a selected option. We start with the drafted plan, then the plan goes out for public review and comment. And that's the stage we're at McKinley Elementary. We have a drafted plan that went out for public review and comment, and we are in the middle of the comment period. With that, I'll turn it over to Lena to talk about the details related to McKinley Elementary.
Thank you, Shahir. Hello, my name is Lena Hijazi. I'm DTSC project manager for this project, and I will be talking about site background, environmental investigations conducted at the site, and the proposed removal action at the site. So starting with site background, the site is approximately 1 acre paved parking lot. It is located within McKinley Elementary School on the eastern portion. It has been developed as a playground or parking lot since the 1920s when the school was first constructed. Future developments at the site include constructing a new school building. As part of this planned construction, the school district conducted an environmental investigation at the site, which resulted in entering into an environmental agreement with DTSC in order to review the investigations and decide on next steps. So this figure here shows the school boundary outlined by the red line, and the site, which is the parking lot area, located on the eastern portion of the school, and it's denoted by the purple dotted line. The site is bounded by Chelsea Avenue to the east and the rest of McKinley Elementary School in all other directions. This figure here shows the location of the proposed new building that's planned to be constructed at the parking lot. It is denoted by the blue line. The rest of the parking lot or the rest of the site will be paved. So as previously mentioned, the school district conducted an environmental investigation as part of the planned construction project. This investigation, also known as preliminary environmental assessment or PEA, was conducted by the district in February, June, and July of 2023. In February of 2023, soil samples were collected from 12 locations across the parking lot area, and soil vapor samples were collected from 3 locations next to Chelsea Avenue. Results of the soil sampling showed detections of arsenic above regulatory guidelines at 4 locations, and results from soil vapor sampling showed detections of volatile organic compounds, mainly PCE or tetrachloroethylene and benzene, above regulatory guidelines at the 3 sampled locations. Due to high detections of PCE and benzene in the 3 sampled locations, the school district collected additional soil vapor samples from additional 10 locations in June of 2023. Results of the additional soil vapor sampling showed mostly detections of PCE above regulatory guidelines. The offsite source of the PCE contamination is unknown, but a potential source might be the dry cleaner located across Chelsea Avenue, since PCE is a chemical that's usually used in dry cleaning operations. So due to arsenic detections in soil above regulatory guidelines in 4 locations, and in order to figure out if the detections are considered background or contamination, additional step-out samples were collected at these locations at deeper depths. Statistical analysis was conducted for arsenic with all the data, which concluded that the upper bound arsenic level at the site is 17 milligram per kilogram. This means that only detections above 17 were of concern. Out of the 132 samples collected, only 13 samples were above 17 milligram per kilogram, with the highest detection being 20.9 milligram per kilogram. Also in July of 2023, indoor air samples were collected from the school buildings adjoining the site to investigate if volatile organic compounds like PCE or benzene, if they migrated into the buildings. Results showed no detections of PCE above regulatory guidelines in indoor air and showed detections of benzene similar to those in outdoor air. These results indicate that there's no significant difference between indoor air quality and outdoor air quality. It also indicates that impact of vapors to indoor air, also known as vapor intrusion, is unlikely. But as an abundance of caution, the school district has made adjustments to the ventilation system in the preschool building nearest to the offsite dry cleaner to reduce potential of vapor intrusion exposure. This figure here shows the sampling locations of the first sampling event conducted in February of 2023. The orange dots indicate the soil sampling locations where samples were collected from 2 and 4 feet. And the blue dots indicate the soil vapor sampling locations where samples were collected from 5 and 15 feet. This figure here shows the locations of the additional soil vapor sampling conducted in June of 2023. The blue dots indicate the locations of the sampling probes, which were mostly located within the footprint of the new proposed building. In this figure here, we can see the 4 locations where arsenic was detected above, initially above regulatory guidelines. These 4 locations are denoted by the red dots and outlined by the red boxes. This here shows some of the step-out samples that were, or the additional soil samples that were collected around one of the 4 areas impacted by arsenic. These additional soil samples, denoted by the orange dots, were collected from all directions and down to 8 feet to further characterize the soil. This was done in July of 2023. So after DTSC reviewed the PEA investigation, DTSC determined in October of 2023 that a removal action work plan, also known as a RAW, is required for the site to address arsenic in soil and to address volatile organic compounds in soil vapor. The goal of the proposed cleanup is to mitigate potential future risks to human health and the environment at the site. Although a RAW was determined to be required at the site, currently there's no immediate risk associated with the contamination found in soil or in soil vapor. For soil, arsenic was detected in some samples collected from 2 to 8 feet under the pavement. Children would not come in direct contact with the soil as the pavement acts as a barrier. For soil vapor, there is no exposure at the site as there are no classroom buildings. As for the existing school buildings, there is no indication of vapor intrusion based on the results of the indoor air data as previously mentioned. and this means that they're safe for occupancy. After the PA determination, the district also conducted another round of soil vapor and indoor air sampling and in the winter season. So it was in December of 2023 and January of 2024 to assess for temporal variability. The indoor air results were consistent with the results of the first round, and the soil vapor results showed only detections of PCE above regulatory guidelines. Additionally, additional soil samples were collected across the site in May of 2024 to further characterize the soil for reuse purposes. So the raw or the cleanup plan was prepared recently, and its objectives are to minimize exposure to arsenic in shallow soil, minimize the potential for migration of volatile organic compounds from shallow soil vapor into the proposed new building, allow for safe long-term occupancy of the proposed classroom building at the site. To achieve the removal action objectives, the RAW proposes 3 alternatives to address contamination in soil and soil vapor. For soil, the RAW proposes no action, excavation and offsite disposal, or soil reuse containment capping in place. For soil vapor, the RAW proposes no action, vapor extraction system, or vapor intrusion mitigation and migration engineering control system. These alternatives are evaluated and compared based on their effectiveness, implementability, and cost. Based on the evaluation criteria, the proposed alternative recommended was Alternative 3. This proposed alternative includes soil reuse containment capping in place to address arsenic-impacted soil, and vapor intrusion mitigation system to address VOCs in soil vapor. Placing a land use restriction on long-term operation and maintenance are also required with the proposed recommended alternative. A land use restriction is usually required whenever there's residual contamination left in place. It restricts the use of the property and some activities at the site. So to address arsenic in soil, the RAW proposes to cap or cover the soil that will be disturbed during construction. The soil will be either covered by asphalt or the proposed new building. This cap would be used to eliminate the potential to come into contact with the soils containing elevated levels of arsenic. For soil that will remain exposed and not covered in areas like small landscaped planter areas, the RAW proposes placing 4 feet of clean soil. In addition, land use restriction, operation, and maintenance will be prepared to ensure the cover in both landscaped and hardscaped areas is properly maintained. To address the soil vapor contamination, a vapor intrusion mitigation system is proposed to be installed beneath the new proposed building. Mitigation consists of installing a barrier membrane beneath the building slab to reduce the potential of subsurface vapors from entering into the building. To ensure the building is safe and remains safe for occupancy, long-term monitoring will be conducted, which consists of sampling soil vapor and indoor air regularly. Also, a land use restriction, operation, and maintenance will be prepared to ensure the VIM system is properly maintained. To address the source of PC contamination, DTSC has requested from the adjacent dry cleaner to enter into an agreement with DTSC in order to investigate potential PC contamination at their property. I have also requested historical records from the city for 2 adjacent dry cleaners that will give us more information on the potential sources of the PCE at the site. And back to the RAW. So the next steps after receiving public comments on the RAW, DTSC will respond to these public comments. Subsequently, the RAW may be revised or finalized. Once the RAW is finalized and approved, it can be implemented. During the RAW implementation, soil will be disturbed, which will require dust control measures and air monitoring. Air monitoring will be conducted in accordance with the South Coast Air Quality Management District rules, where particulate monitors will be placed at the fence line in an upwind and downwind direction to monitor dust concentrations at the site. Dust will be controlled by spraying water to working areas as necessary. All earth-moving activities will stop if dust monitoring action level exceeds 25 microgram per meter cube, or if wind speed exceeds 25 miles per hour. And the working areas also will be fenced. The RAW implementation is anticipated to happen July and August of 2024. Work hours are limited to 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Saturday. No construction activities are permitted on Sundays. So after the RAW is implemented, a completion report known as a RACER will be submitted to DTSC for approval. Also, the land use restriction and the O&M will be prepared. So this concludes my part of the presentation. I will hand it back to Teresa for the Q&A session.
Thank you, Shahir and Lena, for your presentations. As a reminder, we will be taking public comments after the Q&A session. Please hold all comments for the official comment record until that time has been announced. We'll go to the comment session if the Q&A ends early, and while we recognize that there is limited time for comments, people may also provide comments via mail or email. If you have questions about the presentation, please raise your virtual hand using the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or type it into the Q&A. If you are participating on our Spanish line, please give us a few moments and our interpreter will call on you. We will do our best to respond to questions in order we receive them. We will begin by taking some questions and entered into the Q&A during the presentation. So we have one question right now in the Q&A, and the question reads, what was the starting time of construction? Lena, can you please?
Yes, it's anticipated to start in July, but that will be based also on when we issue the raw adequacy letter. So once we receive all public comments and we answer them, like we prepare the RTC document and we issue raw adequacy letter, that's when the raw can be implemented.
Okay, we will now take some questions from those with their hands raised. John?
Yeah, I have a few questions. The first one is, did you do any testing on the football field or any other area of the school that does not have pavement as a cap?
No, the sampling was only conducted in, like the soil sampling was only conducted on the parking lot, the eastern parking lot area.
Okay. I'm not an expert by any means, but the farther you are away from what you think is the source would probably have lower toxicity. Is that correct?
Shahir, do you want to take that?
Yeah. Thanks,
Please.
Lena. John, the further away you are from the source, the less impact you will find. It attenuates with distance. Yes.
Okay, if that is the fact, wouldn't you recommend to the school district that they construct their building farther from the source?
Well, the design and construction of the building is outside our preview, and it's probably went through Office of Public School Construction review. What we're focused on is to make sure that the school is safe for occupants. The design and construction is outside our preview, and it's most likely was approved by Office of Public School Construction.
Thank you, Shahir. I'm going to go ahead and take some questions. I'm going to go ahead and check with the interpreters to see if there's any questions on their end. To see if there's any questions there. Carrie, where you're at?
We have a question in the chat. It's from Ms. Simona Popovic. Did you say constructions will be performed from 6 a.m. or I misheard that? Can somebody confirm the time that the constructions will be starting?
8 a.m. 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Thank you, Lena. Carrie, is there any questions there on your end?
Carrie? No, there are not any questions here in the auditorium.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay. John, did you have further questions? Okay, I don't see him unmuting himself. Any other questions? Anybody that has clarifying questions in regards to the presentation that was just given? I don't see any more hands raised. So we will now begin the public comment session of the
Hold
meeting.
on, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, go ahead, John.
Okay, I'm sorry. I understand you're gonna be wetting down the soil to keep the dust down. How are you gonna handle that runoff that would have chemicals in it? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Lena, can, or
Yeah,
Shayr, can you
I-
go ahead and
okay.
respond?
You know, John, the work here is typical of what you see in a construction site. It's not likely there'll be runoff. The amount of water that will be used is just to make sure there's no dust on the property, and they would need to ensure there is no runoff. It's similar to any other construction project.
Okay, so you're not gonna do anything with, to contain runoff of water that might have chemicals in it. Is that my understanding?
There will not be runoff that will be contained on the site, similar to other construction projects, whatever is required for a typical construction project.
Okay, and my last question is, how many times a day are you testing the air and how do we get the results?
So according to the draft raw, indoor air monitoring or sampling is gonna start, conducted quarter. They're gonna start conducting it quarterly on a quarter basis. And then after that, after we review the results, it might become, monitored biannually or annually. So it depends on the results. These results will be sent to us in reports that will be uploaded on EnviroStore. So you can actually find them on EnviroStore at that time. They'll be publicly available.
I'm sorry, I think you misunderstood my question. During the construction, where I and my family live 30 feet away amongst other families, how often are you going to test the air during the construction and during the digging?
Oh,
And how do we get those results?
okay,
They-
you meant outdoor air. So yeah, there will be 4 air monitors around the perimeter of the site. They will be placed, on the east, west, south, and north of the site, and they will be checked regularly. If the dust monitoring action levels exceed 25 microgram per meter cube, then all activities will be stopped. So
You said
It will be-
you said they're being tested regularly. How many times a day are they being tested, and how do we view the results?
John, approximately every half hour, they will test the air, and they will be reported in the removal completion report. That will
Right,
make
but
available on.
I think that's fabulous that you're testing every half hour. How often do we get to see the results? What I'm afraid of is that there's a bad result and we don't hear about it for 10 days. And we're inhaling that for 10 days without any notification. So I hear you're doing it every half hour. How do we see the results every half hour?
Well, the results will be officially available as part of the removal completion report, but if there are accidents during operation, we will be notified. The district will notify our office, and then if there is continuous accidents or more than one-time accidents, we would have to probably communicate with the surrounding community and figure out ways to slow down the work or increase dust control or take action to reduce the dust levels. That is the plan in general.
So us residents who live in breathing distance of this, We just have to trust the fact that you'll let us know if there's a problem. There's no place.
I mean, if there is a need to post answers on a day-by-day basis, we can do that as results are available. It takes probably a day or two to post the results, but I don't think they are like, you can monitor the results on an like live monitoring. I don't think we have that capability to do live monitoring, but if need be, we can post them within a day or two from the date of sampling. But again, the goal is to make sure there is no impact to the surrounding community. The monitoring is designed to make sure there is no impact to the surrounding community. That's why we monitor upwind, downwind, and we do it many, many times during the day.
Well, I thank you for that answer, and I look forward to whatever website you're going to lead me to so I can monitor it as well.
Thank you. Please connect with Lena or myself as the work progresses, and we can answer your questions and provide you more information as the work progresses.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go over to the school with Esme. Is there anybody there with questions in Spanish?
No, Teresa, there's no one here with questions. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Carrie, is there any questions there in English?
No, we have no questions here.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A and or hands raised. So we will now begin the public comment session of the meeting. Actually, we just got one more question. I'm going to go ahead and go to the Q&A. Would that sprinkling with the water hold soil moist during hot summer days? Lena, if you can.
Shahir, do you want to take that?
Yes, thank you. Can you repeat the question? I think you're saying this is related to the amount of spraying that's necessary during hot summer days. I think that's what the question is. So the dust monitoring and the number of times they need to spray water to control dust might vary depending on the temperature of the day and probably the soil moisture and so on. So it's based on dust monitoring and based on the temperature of that day, the number of times that spraying for dust control is needed. It might be variable.
Thank you, Shahir, for your response. I will go ahead and ask if there is anybody else with any further questions. If there are, if you could please raise your hand or type it in the Q&A. Okay, I don't see anybody with the raised hand or any further questions in the Q&A. So we will now begin the public comment session of the meeting. The format will be similar to the question and answer session. If you would like to verbalize your comment, please raise your hand. If you would like to provide your comment in writing, we will display the ways to comment at the end of the meeting. All public comments will be responded to and included in the response to comments document, which will be uploaded to Envirestore and sent to those providing their contact information. Again, if you would like a copy of this document sent to you, please send your contact information to me via email at teresa.hernandez@dtsc.ca.gov. And note if you would like to receive it by email or mail. We will begin by taking some of the comments entered into the Q&A. If anybody has a comment, go ahead and enter those into the Q&A. I see no comments at this time. Is there anybody on the line on Zoom that would like to state their comment? Rosvita Roch, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes. Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Do there need to be any, or are there any safety protocols in place regarding people going in and out of the site, that what they might track out regarding stuff on their shoes or stuff on the vehicle? That goes in and out, that gets tracked from the site up and down the street.
I believe this is more of a question. Lena, if you would like to respond to this.
Yes, so the working area is going to be entirely fenced. So only authorized personnel are going to be allowed in.
Thank you, Lena, for your response.
Hi, could I
Yes.
return on that? That doesn't really, I mean, is there any kind of for any vehicles entering and leaving, for people entering and leaving the site, workers there? I mean, are they, is this being tracked? All this material, is it being tracked somehow, or is there the same kind of safety protocol in place for preventing a distribution of the contaminated materials?
Well, that's a good question. Let me just add something to what Lena said. The removal action work plan has a health and safety plan, and as part of the health and safety plan and compliance with OSHA requirement, they need to decontaminate before personnel that enter the site. Of course, they'll sign in and out, and they will need to decontaminate before they leave the site. As for vehicles, they need to clean them up, like they brush off the tires, clean up the tires before, if any vehicles leave, that needs to happen before the vehicles leave the site. That's part of the health and safety plan for
Throwing
the
it into
project.
the air? Question mark.
Well, thank you very much.
How are they going to decontaminate themselves? Question mark.
Well,
Denise, is that a question?
well, there are ways. I mean, they typically would have an overhauls and safety boots and so on that they will take out and throw out the safety gear, basically disposable outer gear that they would just dispose of.
Thank you, Shahir, for that response. Any further questions? Denise?
Oh, you just mentioned that they were going to be brushing off the vehicles. So if they're brushing the vehicles off, they're throwing that into the air. What do you mean brushing the vehicles off? I don't understand. I mean, they're going to fully, I don't get it. How they're going to get it off the tires and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, this is sort of a standard practice on site where there is environmental cleanup or investigation. Typically, they would go through a specific exit area where they would brush off the tires to take off any residual soil on the tires and the outside of the vehicle. And if they're exporting for this site, we don't expect anything to be exported to offsite. But in general, they would look at the outside, brush off any residual soil, cover trucks before they leave or equipment. That's standard practice on sites with environmental investigation and cleanup.
And if we see that they are not doing that, what do we do? Because we can watch it from our houses.
Please let Lena or myself know about it. And we will be, Lena or other staff from our office will be visiting the site on a regular basis as the work is ongoing. We will not be there all the time, but we will visit the site enough times to check on the work and the progress. And if you observe anything that you have concern about, you can connect with Lena or myself or Teresa.
You can go ahead with your question. We can hear you now, Denise.
Oh, I think I already asked my questions.
Oh, okay. I saw your hand come up again. Okay.
Oh,
sorry. No. Any further questions? Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Is there anybody that has a comment that they would like for the official comment record? If so, please raise your hands. These we will not be responding to, but we'll be responding to them in the response to comments for later. So I will go ahead and ask now John to go ahead and mute. He has his hands raised for a comment.
Hi, it's not really about the construction site, but since you found this toxic soil where you're putting the building, it seems to make sense that you should test the field that the kids play in and do have contact with the soil, where there isn't an asphalt cap over it, and make sure they're not being exposed to anything now or in the future.
Okay, John, thank you for that comment. Any further comments? If so, please go ahead and raise your hands. I will be going to these Spanish interpreters to see if there's any comments on the Spanish line. Aj or Suzanne, is there any comments on the Spanish side? Okay, thank you. I will go ahead and take it to Esme. Esme, there at the school. Is there anybody there?
There's no one in the room, so there are no questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Esme. Any questions on the English side or comments? I mean, Carrie, there? No.
There is no one in the room. There are no questions.
Okay, great, thank you.
We have a raised hand.
Yes, I'm gonna come back to that now. Rosvita, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you to unmute yourself and state your comment.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, I just think that this reflects that we're concerned, especially the neighbors that are just right across the street. I also live on Chelsea Avenue, right across the street, that these protocols are established and kind of revealed to us in greater detail in the future would really go a long way to, I think, reassuring us that how things are going to kind of take place, and that the communication stays open. I, for one, really appreciate this meeting and this opportunity to be able to kind of put names and faces together and know who's on board. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosvita, for your comment. I don't see any more comments in the Q&A, and I don't have any more people with their participants with their hands raised. So this brings us to the end of the public comment session. As a reminder, the public comment period opened on May 17th, 2024, and will conclude on June 18th, 2024. Please submit all comments by June 18th, 2024. Written comments can be submitted to Lena Hijazi via email or mail. Email at lena.hizazi@dtsc.ca.gov, as seen here on the screen, or U.S. mail at Lena Hizazi, Project Manager, 5796 Corporate Avenue in Cypress, California, 90630. Thank you for your interest and for participating. Please be sure to provide your written comment by the end of the public comment period. Thank you again and stay safe.